Hello, I am doing a tier list for the mini games from Ape Academy 1 for all four people on Earth who play this game still. Um, I just figured I'd do this more for just fun than anything. Yeah, it has 37 mini games total. It's funny because on the back cover of the game it claims that it has 50, but it does not. Um, yeah, I've recently been sort of spamming this game, going through all the teacher things over and over trying to get all the figurines. So I figured I would do this. Got S is going to be the best, and then A, B, C, D, all the way down to F for shit like Simian Suplex. You know what? I'm just going to put that. Where's Simian Suplex? I'm just going to put that right there. To start with, that game fucking sucks. I hate it. It's so random. You have almost no control over what happens. It's just like, and like that doesn't apply to like any of these other games. I swear, all these other games you have some degree of control over whether you win or lose. This one's just stupid. Few disclaimers before I start, even though I've already started. But like, this is obviously my opinion, so it's very biased. And second of all, because I've been playing this game for such a long time, you could probably safely assume I've played each of these games at least 100 times. So you could say that I have as educated of an opinion as I'm going to get on these minigames. Like, there's no possibility of me reaching a future time where I am more educated about these minigames than I am now. It's not really going to happen. So, yeah, that's basically it, I think. I'm just going to start from the beginning here. So, 1 meter dash. This is a fun game. Because it's literally like, I love the pun too. It's like a 100-meter dash, except like, it's 1 meter, get it? And they even make it like 1.00. It's just like, it's a very simple game. It's just reaction times. Like, it's just, and you can do it on the multiplayer. It's one of the multiplayer games you can do. But it's so dead simple. It's just react as fast as you can. So it's nothing spectacular. So I would put it, but at the same time, there's nothing harmful about it. It's not a bad game. Although I have to say, playing on an emulator does cause problems because you've got the input delay, but that's not the game's fault, so I won't hold that against the game. I'm going to go C. Nothing particularly special about it, nothing particularly notable about it, it's just reaction time, that's literally it. A Rose Monsieur. This one's fun. I like it. I like it probably more than I should. It's a very pure sort of game. It's just like, you're just going around being like, hey, can I offer you a rose for no fucking reason whatsoever. It's just like, you're just playing as essentially the ultimate monkey simp. It's just great. Yeah, it's a fun game. I reckon this one would go on the A tier for me. It's not like a fucking great fun game, but it's like, and when you play it on the minigame mode, you only get so far till, I think you can get like in your 30s, I reckon is probably the highest score you'll get. Hell, maybe if you're a hell of a lot better than me, you might get 40 maybe, but I've only ever gotten in the 30s. But, so it does sort of stagnate after a while, which, well, I suppose that happens to every minigame, really. But it's a really fun game. I really enjoy it. It's just really fun and pure and sweet. It's a very sweet game with a nice mood to it. Ape the Ape. This is actually one I find rather hard to rank because it's literally a tutorial level, so it's barely even like... Oh, it's a tutorial minigame, I should say. So, hard to rank. I mean, it's a fine enough tutorial. There's nothing wrong with it. It's perfectly functional. It shows it, but at the same time, see, the other thing is that it doesn't really like actually teach you much of anything though, if you think about it, because like it's like when he says press up, like I'm pretty sure any idiot would know how to press up on a D-pad, right? I mean, you don't need to teach people how to do that, do you? So, I don't know, it's a bit of a weird tutorial because the stuff that he teaches you doesn't directly really impact the game at all. Like, he says like, oh, hit triangle and you'll do this like funny weird monkey move, right? But at no other point in the game does triangle do that move. It's just for that random tutorial. So, it's a pointless tutorial, isn't it really? Like, it's really pointless. I didn't think of this before, but yeah, it's just occurred to me that it's a really pointless tutorial, so I don't know. I'm thinking put this on D. Because it's a really quite a shit tutorial. Like, it's you don't even really need a tutorial, though. I mean, I reckon if you were going to have a tutorial of any kind, I think you would just have tutorials for some of the individual minigames, kind of like you can in Mario Party. Like in the original Mario Party, that came out 7 years before this game did. And in that, every time you get to a minigame, you can review the rules, and look through, and you don't necessarily get a tutorial, but at least you get to look through how it works and stuff like that. Whereas in Ape Academy, you sort of get thrown in the deep end. So I don't know. I'm getting a bit philosophical in terms of like what is a good and bad tutorial and all that sort of thing. But I don't think this is a very strong tutorial. I really would put it in D because it's just not. It's just not good. For the reasons I already explained. Ask Darwin. Oh, I'm sorry, this has got to go straight in F. It's terrible. It's so terrible. It's got all these, it's just these... Look, some of the quiz questions you get are alright. I mean, you know, you'll occasionally get, like, a really hard math equation, and I find those kind of fun. But most of the time you'll just get, like, random trivia questions, and some of the random trivia questions are fine enough, but then a lot of the trivia questions you get are just complete nonsense that don't even make any sense. And like let me try and think of an example. So I got this one question actually. I was just playing it this morning, and I got this one question saying, and the entire question was just food, and there were 4 answers, and they were all essentially just foods. That's it. They were all foods. None of them was not a food at all. So I just chose one at random, and I was wrong. The answer turned out to be apple. Now, I don't understand how that's any more or less a food than anything else on that list. Like, I swear, it was like watermelons, grapes, like pears, stuff like that. Like, it was just other random foods. And, yeah, I was completely baffled as to how that is any more or less a food than anything else on that list. So, that's the reason I'm putting this on F tier, is because there's a lot of questions on it that are complete nonsense. And then there are other times where they're saying, like, which one, like, pick the odd one out, and, like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, there are literally multiple ways you could look at the odd one out. You could go, oh, well, if you look at it from this angle, this could be the odd one out, but if you look at it from an equally valid other angle, this could be the odd one out. So it's a very half-assed quiz game. I feel like if the questions made more sense, I would put it probably a lot higher, because I generally do enjoy trivia games as a concept, but this one just sucks. Sucks donkey dick. Hate it. So yeah, Ask Darwin goes in the F category for me. Monkey balancing. This one's very fun. I do like it. Yeah, it's a good fun game. And it is quite hard, and it definitely takes a lot of getting used to. It's not, like, when you pick it up and play it for the first time, you're going to be struggling a bit, I think. But it's reasonably intuitive, though, at the same time, you know? It's funny, I remember when I was like 9 years old and I first played this game, the first thing I did when playing Monkey Balancing was I pressed right like 3 or 4 or 5 times, and of course I died. And I was just like, and my 9-year-old brain was just so confused, I was just like, why am I not progressing? But yeah, anyway. It's a really fun game. I think I would put it in the A or B. It's going to be one of those two. I'm going to have to go with B because, you know, if I have to compare it to A Rose Monsieur, see, that's got a lot of really, like, you know, nice characteristics about it, whereas Monkey Balancing is it's quite simple, and I certainly don't mean that in a bad way, but it does get a tiny bit dull compared to A Rose Monsieur, which for me doesn't really get as dull. I find there's a bit more variety in that, you know, with the RNG, with the monkeys walking by, you know, that's something that sort of keeps the game feeling fresh, whereas with Monkey Balancing, there's actually nothing that keeps the game feeling fresh. I mean, the only thing I can think of is that depending on what teacher you're on, you'll get a different sort of, like, hill structure in terms of when you're walking along the thing, but aside from that, that's about it. So it's a bit more monotonous and feels a bit more monotonous the more you play it. Like, there's not much variety. Whereas with A Rose Monsieur and, you know, there's variety. Banana Guardian. Yeah, this one's pretty fun. I do like Banana Guardian. It's, Banana Boomerang's a little bit useless, I'll say that, you know. Once you get up to the pink monkey stages, you do not have a Banana Boomerang at all, which makes things rather challenging, but I would definitely say it's one of the easier mini games, even if you're playing for the first time. I think it's quite rare to fuck it up, so it's not hard. But I like how it's got a unique aesthetic about it, and that I really like, because it's almost like a, you know, a kiddie sort of horror game, and I like that vibe. You know, it's got a nice vibe about it, in a very similar sense to the Rose game. So I'm going to put it in A, along with the Rose game. I haven't put anything in S yet because there are certain games that I really, really fucking love that I want to put in S. But I'll get to those. And also, I like how the banana boomerang can, it can take care of those monkeys that are crouching, whereas the slingshot can't. So it's, there's a lot of stuff you got to juggle around, and it's really nice. Yeah, I definitely like it a lot. Bomber Monkey. This one is a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. And I love getting all unnecessarily fancy and always trying to stack 5 bombs in a row even when you don't even need to, because every time you stack 5 bombs in a row you get this thunderous applause. And then if you're lucky or slash good enough to get a 6th bomb on top of that, or even a 7th, which I've only done on a very rare occasion, then you get another applause for each one, and it's just so satisfying. I love doing that. So this is a really fun game. I would have to put this in. I'm really torn up between A and S on this one, to be honest. It's really fun. However, at the same time, it's not it is a bit slow. I'll say that. It's a little bit on the slow side. And I don't mean in terms of if you want to talk about slowness, obviously a Banana Guardian probably technically takes more time to complete than Bomber Monkey does. But at the same time, with Banana Guardian, I guess you're always sort of on your edge because there's stuff to look out for and you really got to pay attention. Whereas with Bomber Monkey, it's feels a bit simpler and a bit easier, and that's not a bad thing, but I think I'm once again going to have to put this in A. I know it seems like I'm putting a lot of stuff in A, but this is, I guess it's just the order I'm going in. Monkey Bowling. Monkey Bowling, my thoughts on this one can be summed up as follows. It's ridiculously simple, and I don't necessarily mean... Well, I do actually. No, I do mean easy. It is. It's simple and easy as fuck. Unless you get to the white or pink monkey stages. And then once you get to that, you suddenly got that last one. And you the guys who have played this game a lot, know what I mean by that. You got these monkeys that are standing up, and it's in a acrobat sort of style. And it seems that no matter what angle you hit them at, there's always going to be one standing at the end. And it feels like the most random, frankly, bullshit thing ever. It's just... I don't like it. So I have to say Monkey Bowling is going to be really low for me. D or F. I don't know which one. It's funny though, because you know what? I think I am going to put this in D, and the reason for that is because the multiplayer version is quite fun. Because then it's it's actual bowling, and it's you don't have any of that other bullshit, so it's actually a bit cooler. But in terms of the single player version of this minigame, oh god, it's just if you're playing on Yellow Monkey or below, then it's just too easy. And if you're playing on White Monkey or harder, it's too hard because, and I mean hard for the wrong reasons, because it feels way too random, and not to mention you have to get a strike in order to win, and getting that on that last particular bowling bit where with those acrobat monkeys is just so fucking random. It's just terrible. So, yeah, not a fan. Chef Chimpy. Now this is going straight in S. I love it. I love this minigame so much. It's so good. It's just like a little restaurant that you're running, and you gotta serve the monkeys bananas. It's so fucking cute. I love it. Oh, this minigame's the best. I can't rave on about it enough. I remember when I was a kid, I'd play it all the time. I would literally go into minigames and spam it over and over. And the high score that you get, so long as you don't fuck up, your high score will remain stagnant. You can't even really beat your high score. But it's just so addictive because you just got to pay attention to what they want. And you got to be like, oh, okay, it feels like you're just running a little mini monkey restaurant. It's just so fun and pure. I absolutely love it. That is unquestionably going in S. Monkey Dice. I have mixed thoughts about this one. On one hand, I love the concept because its reaction times, it's similar to 1 meter dash, but it turns 1 meter dash into something next level. It actually puts more to it, because 1 meter dash is just so bloody simple. In this case, I mean simple, not in the sense of being easy, but just simple in concept. It's literally you just react to shit and you press it. With Monkey Dice, it's more complicated than that. You got to work out which button to press and which button to react to. So it's really good. Or react with, which button to react with. However, I do feel that once your reaction times get kind of fast enough, and especially, and I only really find this to be a problem when you've been playing the minigame mode version of this specifically, and you've beaten all the regular monkeys and you're moving on to the Pipitrons. I find that it literally becomes a bit of a button mashing exercise. Um, it's like, because what happens is they roll the dice. You've got about 3/4 of a second, very roughly, to look at the dice and sort of realize, okay, I have to either press circle or X, depending on whether or not your dice is higher or lower than the other one, respectively. And you know, you got 3/4 of a second to work that out, but then you can't actually, they don't register any button inputs until that 3/4 of a second is up, which means that if you've worked it out by the time, if you've worked out which button you need to press by the time that is up, then essentially what you're doing is, let's say you're supposed to press X, what you're essentially doing is just mashing X. And what can actually happen once you get to the high difficulties is that you mashing X will actually still won't be fast enough, even though you actually knew which button you were supposed to press before it was even detectable. It's still not fast enough. Which seems paradoxical to me, because that doesn't like make any sense. But that is a nitpick, I will admit, because it only happens in the later stages, and this is never going to happen if you're playing the game during regular Academy mode. However, that said, the only time you're ever going to play this in Academy mode is when you're trying to get the special minigame on Red Monkey, and once you do that, and you know, on that difficulty, you're gonna, vast majority of the time you're gonna do it on the first try. I can't imagine anyone not doing that on the first try, unless they, I guess, don't know what they're doing, or they don't understand how the minigame works yet. But so basically what I'm trying to say is, on Academy mode, I don't think you're going to find yourself playing much Monkey Dice at all. Any of the time you play that, it's going to be on minigame mode. So, it's fun enough. It's not bad at all. I'm going to put it on B. It's not a bad minigame. I definitely love the concept. Execution could be a bit better in terms of that whole 3/4 of a second thing I was sort of rambling about earlier. But yes, that's how I feel about Monkey Dice. Dodgeball. This one is alright. It's a bit dull. I've never loved it. I've never really felt that strongly about it in any real capacity positively. I'd have to say it ranks a bit on the lower side for me. And the reason for that is because it's all just sort of the same thing, and it's really, really easy. I know I say that about a fair few of these minigames, and I'm aware I do have a lot of bias because I've played the game a lot, so maybe I find these easier than some of you might if you played it. But, and, you know, but the thing is, even when I was a little kid playing this, I still never had trouble with dodgeball, so, you know, to that end, I mean, Jesus, I was a really dumb kid, so, you know. Yeah, I don't know. I think dodgeball it's just a bit too easy. I think that's the problem with it, and it also drags, especially in the higher difficulties. In the earlier difficulties, it doesn't drag at all because they make it really quick. But on the later difficulties, I just find I'm just sitting there sort of looking at my watch and being like, come on, can we just get this over with? It's just alright. That's what I'd say. I'm going to give it a C. Monkey Drill. This one is... You know, it's funny. I reckon most people, when they first play this game, I reckon this is just a theory of mine, and I don't proclaim this to be, like, objectively true, but it's a theory I have, and that is that most people, when they first play this game, you know, just say they're trying to beat the game, I reckon the first time they ever play Monkey Drill, they're going to be like, oh, this shit's so easy, right? It's got, like... And the vast majority of the time it is, because you've got shit like 9 plus 2, and, like, you know, 15 times 2, and pretty simple shit like that. But then just very occasionally with Monkey Drill, it's funny, very occasionally you'll get something like 9 times 5 times 6, you know, which even then is not, it's not the most impossible math I've ever come across, but it's not easy. That's not, you know, that actually takes you a good while to think about. And look, I mean, obviously everyone's got varying mathematical abilities, but... Yeah, that certainly takes me a bit of time to think about. Like, I really have to think about that and be like, okay, there we go. You know, it takes me a good, like, 10 seconds or so. So I like that there's that unpredictability. I like how sometimes it's going to, trick you out. But, yeah, otherwise it's very simple, and actually one flaw with this game I have to identify is that, let's say you don't get all the answers right, which, if you get all the answers right, you'll win the minigame pretty quickly. But if you don't get all the answers right and you get some right and some wrong, then what'll happen is it'll take, you'll have to answer, 15, 20, often, even, going up to, 20, 25, 30 questions by the time the game has decided whether or not you've won or lost. I think the game works on some sort of system where, I think you start off at, 0, and it's there's this value, and every time you get a question right, it goes up 1, and every time you get a question wrong, it goes down 1. So what that means is that, I don't know if this is exactly how it works, but this is just my interpretation, is that what could theoretically happen is that if you alternate, let's say you get one right, one wrong, one right, one wrong, and you keep on doing that over and over, it's you could theoretically be there forever. But I think there's some sort of system, it gets more sensitive, the number gets more sensitive, so, it'll start off being increased by 1 or decreased by 1, but then that difference will then increase to 1.1 or something like that. I don't know exactly how it's programmed, but that's the feeling I've gotten over my many years of playing it. So that is something that could be improved. I think the sensitivity of that value decreasing or increasing should definitely be more sensitive because, I just find it really, really drags if you don't get all the answers right. That said, I don't usually have that problem. I usually do get all the answers right. So I guess personally, if given that this is my opinion, I wouldn't really say that applies to me much. So I'd rank it A or B. It's going to definitely be A or B. I'm going to put it in B, and the only reason for that is because you do get a lot of repeats. You do get a lot of, literally, I'm pretty sure there's this one thing where they say 42 plus 1. Sorry, not plus 1. 42 plus 9, sorry. And, yeah, they'll often give you that exact equation, and it's it works out in to be that, and I've gotten that at least, 20 times. So the game definitely does repeat a lot. No question about that. So, I'm just my girlfriend's just gotten home, so I'm just going to have to pause the recording real quick. Okay, I've moved to a different room now. So also one thing I did want to mention about Monkey Drill, is that the Japanese version is kind of different. It's got, I think for every alternating grade, you'll get, instead of it being a numbers game and a math game, you'll get an image of a certain national flag, and it will, from the top to the bottom of the screen, it will scroll by quite quickly to the point where you only get a brief glimpse. And then you get some question asking you to identify the flag, or ask some sort of question. They'll ask you some sort of question about that country that the flag's from. I don't really know the exact nature of the question because every time I've seen it, it's been in Japanese text, and I don't know Japanese, so I'm not really sure of that exact nature. But yeah, it's just funny how it's sort of a bit varied in the Japanese version, and they took out the whole flag thing in the English version for fuck knows what reason. But yeah, interesting stuff. Anyway. Now, these next three, actually, by coincidence, is it a coincidence? No, it's not a coincidence, because I think they're in, they're in alphabetical order, so no, it's not a coincidence. These are the 3 Enter the Monkey games, and I'm just going to do them one at a time, so I'm just going to rearrange the order slightly. Okay, so starting off with Enter the Monkey 1, it's funny that they're called Enter the Monkey 1, 2, and 3, even though they're, not related at all. I think the only similarity between them is that they involve monkeys being ninja-ish in some way. I think that's the only similarity that they share. Aside from that, they're completely separate. And certainly gameplay-wise, they couldn't be any more different. So, Enter the Monkey 1 is, it's sort of Donkey Kong Country style, swinging from vine to vine, and, actually, most of the time it's chains, but once you get to the later grades, like White and Pink Monkey, there actually are some, proper vines. So, this is a really good minigame because it really keeps you on your toes, and it involves a lot of sort of precise moment-to-moment judgment. I think it's fucking amazing. I'm struggling in terms of whether or not to put this on S tier or A tier. I do sometimes find that that it's very easy to get carried away and sort of keep on just going hop, 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 hop without really a second thought, and then out of nowhere, it'll suddenly get to the point where the next chain that you have to go on is too short, and then you'll fall down and you're fucked. So, but that's not the game's fault. If that happens to you, that's your fault. it happens to me all the fucking time. It's ridiculous. So I would rank this mini game quite high. I would put it on an A, I think, because it's really solid. It's really fun. And, the time limit, I personally have never found the time limit to really be an issue. I mean, obviously it gives you an incentive to keep going, because if it wasn't for the time limit, you could just stop at every single vine and just let it swing a couple of times. And if you did that, that's like a foolproof way of completing the game. But the time limit's there to sort of prevent you from doing that. And I think that's really good, because it means you have to rush it a bit, but you also have to sort of take your time sometimes if you're at a particularly tricky spot. So I like that there's that balance that you have to pull. So it's incredible. I love it. I should probably move it to S rank. It's such a good game. Should I? Oh, damn, I don't know. It's a really, really good game. You know what? I will actually move it to S tier. It's amazing. I really, really like it. Enter the Monkey 2, I actually feel the same way about. I really love it. It's amazing. It's like, so, this game is like, you're essentially trapped in like a shaft, and you got to bounce off the walls to try and get up, and it's a very deep game. It's very and at the rate that we're currently going at, it sounds like I've got a real thing for the Enter Monkey games, but my opinion on Enter the Monkey 3 is significantly lower, so more on that in a bit. But yeah, so I also really like how when you're escaping the shaft, there's certain items, right? You'll get a bit of smoke, and that signifies that, I don't know if it's smoke or dust. It's dust, I think is what it's supposed to be. And it signifies an item falling down, so you've got to avoid that item. But it could be a figurine when you're playing minigame mode. Academy mode. It could be a figurine. So that it makes things a bit interesting. And then you got the holes, and they're randomly placed. And it can be a very stressful game, and it's especially stressful in minigame mode. Holy shit. I don't know. I swear, like, I don't think I've ever gotten higher than in the 110s. I think that's as highest as I've got in the minigame mode of this. But in the minigame mode, there's no holes. You got to just go straight up. And it's so stressful, and it makes your palms sweat like a motherfucker. So it's solid fun. I absolutely love it. It's going straight in the S tier for me. This one, I adore it. I adore that minigame. Got anything else to say about it before I move on to Enter the Monkey 3? Meh. No, I really don't think I do. It's fantastic. I really, like, if you fuck up, it's really is your own fault. And it's got this really precise timing when you bounce off the walls. Like, if you time it really well, you'll absolutely fly. You'll go really high, and it's great. But it's down to your timing. And if you fuck up the timing, then it's gonna be a much smaller bounce. So it's it's a recipe for a really tense game. It's the best. Love it. Now, Enter the Monkey 3. Yeah. In case it wasn't obvious from what I said before, I'm not a huge fan. So there's basically 3 stages to this minigame. It's like it's almost 3 minigames in one, except they're very, very, very simple to the point where they, it's kind of good that they're all combined into one, because if they weren't, then, well, actually, hang on. No, that's not necessarily true. If you took all the 3 modes from this and made them into their own minigames, that could potentially work, but they would all be very, very simple. So I don't think it's a bad thing that they've combined them all into this particular game. But yeah, so the first stage is dead fucking simple. You see a monkey, like a particular type of monkey, and then you see that monkey among a crowd of 14 other monkeys, and then you have to just identify that monkey. It's piss easy. It's absolutely piss easy. But then you get to the second one, where basically it's that monkey combined with 14 others like before, except this time they all look the same, and they're all doing a particular action, like doing a little weird dance or doing a wave or something, but one of them's doing doing it with slightly different timing to the others, and you have to identify which monkey that is. So it's not a bad game. Like what I said before made it sound like it's a bad game. I don't think it's bad. I just don't think it's as incredibly tense and exciting as Enter the Monkey 1 and 2 are. Like that, the reason I put them into S tier is because they're really exciting and fun and tense, and I love that. But yeah, Enter the Monkey 3 is not bad. I didn't even go into the third minigame, but the third minigame is a bit easier in my opinion. It's compared to the second one. Basically, it's very similar to, it's funny, I swear it's like something else I've played before, and I can't quite put my finger on what that is. But anyway, basically the monkey just moves, like, essentially just warps all over the screen, and then wherever the last spot that he warped, you have to pick that spot, and that's where he will be. So yeah, it's an interesting minigame, especially when you first play it. But the thing is, I find that the more you play it, the more sort of monotonous it gets. It's but not to a really, really painful degree, just to a very mild degree. It's not like, see, maybe this is my experience, kind of fucking me over here, because I've played a lot of these minigames a lot, and so maybe I've become a bit tired of some of them, and so maybe that might be influencing this. So I certainly don't think it's a bad game. I might put it in C or B. Which one? I think I'm going to go C. Anyway, next, Every Monkey's Golf. I like golf games. I really like Mario Golf. And I played a bit of one of those PC Tiger Woods games back in the day as well. But so I do like golf games, but I'm not a huge fan of this one. And the reason why I'm not a huge fan of it is just simply because it just feels incredibly random. Like, basically what you do is, with this, because it's not normal golf. It's a weird monkey golf, basically. And the best way to ensure the best outcome is to just knock the ball onto the hill to your right, and then just hope to God that it lands somewhere good. That's all you can do. Like, there's not really that much strategy. I mean, there are certain things you can do to win slightly more often, but even then, I emphasize slightly because, like, it's not reliable. So it's a very random game, and it does feel very random, and it's especially frustrating for when you're sort of trying to beat the game for the first time, because this is the special minigame for White Monkey, and with White Monkey, to get all the 3 Spectre coins and to get the 2 lines, it's not piss easy, and it's not ridiculously hard, but it's certainly like I said, it's not easy. So you can do that whole thing, go through that whole process, get the 3 Spectre coins, you get to play this game. And if you fuck it up, you got to do the whole process all over again, and that, that can be really painful. So, but the thing is, when it comes to Monkavision, which is Pink Monkey's special minigame, I don't quite feel that way because, well, I'll get into why exactly that is later. But for now, Every Monkey's Golf, I think it's just the randomness, how random the game feels is what really sort of gets me. Simian Suplex, like, I gave that game an F tier purely because of how random it felt. And I don't want to play favourites when it comes to Every Monkey's Golf. That said, Every Monkey's Golf does have some pretty cool trick shots you can do. I actually have a video. I'm not sure yet which channel I'm going to upload this onto. But if I'm thinking of uploading it to my personal channel. And if I do, then you'll be able to see that video. It should be like, I think, the previous video that I uploaded before this. Yeah, it's just all these, little cool things you can do in Every Monkey's Golf. So... yeah, it's not a bad game, but not great either. I think I'm going to have to put it in D. And it's funny how I've got on sort of a nice grid here. Like, now it might seem like I'm so Every Monkey's Football, this is going to go in F, right? Dead wrong. I love Every Monkey's Football. It's going straight in S. Love it. And it's funny because I don't actually like sports. I actually don't like soccer and football in real life, but this particular game is just so bloody fun. Oh, it's just so good. I love trying to maximize the score. I've been trying to do that lately. I've been trying to get a 10. I feel like it's possible. I feel like it's possible to get a 10. A 10 versus 0, but I haven't been able to do it yet. But, yeah, the highest score I've ever been able to get is 9 versus 0. And even that's very hard to do. I've only done that twice. Yes. But yeah, it's just really fun, sort of trying to get the angle just right so you'll fuck over your opponent, and it's just a fun game. That's all it is. It's really just pure fun factor that does this for me, and that is the reason I put it in S category. Is it's always a minigame that I look forward to playing, and I look at it and I'm just like, fuck yeah, like, I don't have any problem with this. So yeah, Every Monkey's Football. Wait, what? Every Monkey's oh my god, I'm mixing it up with the golf one. Monkey Football, very fun game. Huge swig of water. Alright, next we have Geronimo. Now this one is very, very good. I have to say. Very good. It's very exciting, because it's like you're skydiving. However, I'm not going to put it into the S tier, and there's only one reason for that. And that is that when you're going down, I swear the perspective can be a little bit off. Like, you'll see a monkey in the distance and you'll adjust yourself accordingly, but then the monkey will just sort of, either they'll move or it just appears like they're moving. But it's kind of a weird system because they don't seem to stay in place. And even if they do move back and forth a bit, even if that is the case, even if I'm on a spot where I swear they're going to be there, they just sort of just randomly just move away at the last second. And the monkeys are inconsistent. Sometimes they'll move and sometimes they won't. And I find that sort of tends to bother me a bit. But I actually don't think that's the game's fault though, really. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess because this is a personal opinion list, theoretically there's no objective reason why I shouldn't put this in S, but I'm going to put it in A purely because it just doesn't bring me quite as much intense joy as these four do. You know, because when it comes to A and S in this list, I sort of see it as like both of those are for games that are basically perfect. Except the only difference what makes the difference for me is how they make me feel and how much intense joy I get out of playing them. And if I get a lot, then that's S, and if I get less, then it's A. So that would be Geronimo for me. Like, you know, and yeah, these other ones like Banana Guardian, Bomber Monkey, and A Rose Monsieur, they're all like basically games that I wouldn't change a damn thing about. Like, they're basically perfect. But yeah, it's just all down to the amount of joy they bring me. Grand Tourist Monkey, oh god. This one sucks. I'm going to be honest, I'm going to have to put it straight in F. It's just shit. It's a button masher, for God's sakes. But no, it's not a button masher. There's two different buttons you gotta mash. Ooh, so complicated. I really don't like this game. It's, I never play it on minigame mode, like, ever, because it's like, you play it once, you've played it, you know, as many times as you ever need to. Like, basically the whole game is you essentially mash the shit out of circle, and then when you notice that the meter is not getting any higher, you hit X once, and then you keep mashing circle. And that's the whole game. Like, I'm sorry, but... And then the other thing, too, is, you know, it's called Grand Tourist Monkey, which is obviously a funny Gran Turismo pun. And you'd think with that it would be a car racing game. But it's not. It's a game where you wash a car. Which is just... I'm sorry, but that's just, like, come on, really? Just make it a basic sort of racer. Like, you know, I mean, the NES had racing games, for God's sake. There's no excuse. You could have a racing game. Ape Academy 2 had a racing game in the form of, well, there was a few. There was Go-Kart Drag Race. There was, and then there was the one with the unicycles where you got to brake on time. So, you know, they had a few. So there's no excuses. They could have had that be a little sort of car racing game. But no, instead you just wash your car and you do it in the most monotonous way possible. So, yeah, no. Easy F1. Easy F. Now, Hammer Throw. I'm actually going to take a UFO Throw here, and I'm actually going to put it right next to this because I'm going to probably end up putting both of these in the same category because they're sort of the same. Actually, you know, if I was really being consistent, I would have put these as the same game because of kind of like what I did with Ask Darwin and Monkey Drill and all that, but oh well. Too little, too late. But at least, see, these do have a difference, though. These do have a gameplay difference, whereas the other ones don't have any gameplay difference at all, so I suppose there's that. But yeah, Hammer Throw's pretty alright. It's not bad, and it's not great. Basic, because the first part, like when you're spinning the analog stick around in circles, like that's about as basic as you can get. You know, and then you spin it around in circles, and then you hit circle to throw the hammer. It's like there's nothing... Like, so long as you don't fuck up the spinning of the analog stick, which I can't really see happening because it's really quite easy to do, you're never going to fuck that first bit up. So it's always going to be the same, and so it's, you know, very monotonous. It's the part that varies is when you get to the part where you land, because the landing can be very interesting, especially if you're going for the figurine, because what they do is that they put the figurine like a fair bit further away from the requirement to win. You know, because there'll be a monkey sort of sitting there with a flag, and that will signify, okay, you have to get at least this far in order to pass and get a, you know, a circle instead of an X on your noughts and crosses thing on the grade. But there'll be a figurine at some point after that. And if you go for the figurine, I find going for that is where the extra sort of challenge comes in, and I think that's actually quite fun. So it's a little bit mediocre for me, this minigame. It's nothing, I mean, going for that figurine can be fun, and certainly trying to time it when the hammer or the UFO lands, trying to time it can be difficult in a fun way, like in a very good, like the good sort of difficulty. So, but at the same time, it's just one timing though, because if you ignore the first part, which is the same every single bloody time you play it, then it's literally just timing a circle button hold once, and that's basically the entire thing. So it's actually pretty simple, really. Not much to it. So I think I'm going to put them both in C. Yeah, and they're both functionally the same game. UFO Throw is... I mean, you're throwing a UFO, but, like, it's not that different, though. It's really quite... It's sort of the same game, really. So, yeah, I think I'm just going to put them both in the same category there. Oh, my God, I'm an idiot. I thought that was... That's Monka Vision, not UFO Throw. Oh, my God. There we go. I made a bit of a brain fart moment there. Yeah, see, these those two look a bit similar because they're both images of UFOs, but that's Monka Vision. Oh boy, I have a story to tell with Monka Vision. When I was about 10 or 11, when I was first trying to beat the game, this was by far the minigame I had the most trouble with beating. And it was because, you know, I wanted to get the special game on Pink Monkey, because that was the only thing, at the time, was the only thing stopping me from getting to the Spectre level and beating the game for good. So, this game caused really bad heart palpitations for me when I was that age. Like, I was actually playing it, just trying to, you know, win at the end of a successful Pink Monkey run, and holy shit, it just caused so much, like, anxiety within my heart. And it's funny because I'm usually not aware of my heart, usually. Like, a lot of people sort of, like, notice their heart rate and stuff like that. I can't do that. Like, I'm not one of those people. I'm not aware of it. It's just happening in the background and I'm just never aware of it. But while I was playing this, it was intense. Really, really bad heart palpitations. So I think that says a lot. You need a really good game to do that. You know, if it's just a shit game, well, you're just going to get frustrated and feel really pissed off. But this was not how I felt when I was playing this game. I felt very excited, very engaged, and very entertained. So, it's because, I mean, really, Monka Vision isn't anything massively special. I mean, well, for one thing, the title is, I think it's a Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory reference, because Wonka Vision, but I don't know. But the game itself is basically just a shoot 'em up. And it's a good shoot 'em up. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Getting abducted by the UFO is surprisingly easy to do. And, you know, the rocks can be hard to avoid. But it's a fucking fun-ass game. I really, really love it. Like, goddamn. What it did to me when I was a kid is just unforgettable. I have to put it in the S category. I have to. It's amazing. I can't say enough good things about Monka Vision. I'm addicted to it. Like, it's actually the kind of game anytime I go into the minigame mode and I'm just sort of thinking, like, oh, I feel like playing a minigame for fun, it's going to be this one. Or Chef Chimpy. You know, those are the two that I tend to play, like, for fun. Or Monkey Football. You know, one of those three, really. Enter the Monkey 1 and 2, I don't play on minigame mode very often, but it's more just when I see them on Academy mode, I very much look forward to playing them. So, yeah. Monkey Hockey. Ah, I love Monkey Hockey. I love it. It's funny, it's not even hockey, it's air hockey, but for some reason Ape Academy seems to think that they are one and the same, so there you go. I do really like air hockey in real life. So the way I'm talking about this sounds like I'm going to put it into the S category. I think I'm actually going to put it in the A category, and there is a reason for that, and that is that the game is quite luck-based. In terms of, and it's luck-based for the same reason that real-life air hockey is a little bit luck-based, because anything can happen. Like, the puck is going around so wildly that it's like, what the fuck are you going to do? Like, it's really chaotic and really, it feels quite random. But it's a really fucking good game. Like, I really can't fault it. I suppose, well, actually, now that I think about it, I can fault it for one thing, and I suppose this would be another reason to put it in A as opposed to S, and that is that the controls are a little bit delayed. Even, doesn't matter if you're playing on an emulator or an actual PSP, there is a bit of unresponsiveness to the controls, shall we say. So, yeah, not a big fan of that. So, yeah, putting it in A, I think that's an appropriate spot for it. Karate Chimpster. Ooh, this one's a bit dodgy, innit? Thing is with Karate Chimpster, it's not bad, but it's just kind of a shit fighting game, though, I have to say. Like, I'm not even that big on fighting games, but I have played other fighting games that I like more than this. And considering this is Ape Academy, like a game that I'm sort of obsessed with, that is saying a lot. So, yeah, I don't know. But at the same time, I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with it. I do wish the kick was more responsive. I do think that. The kick is very unresponsive. I swear you have to hold it for like a second and then it does it. It's not immediate like the punches. I can't tell if that's deliberate. But either way, I do find it bothersome. So, but it's not bad, and I certainly would be, remiss if I didn't give the game credit where it's due. So, I think I'm going to put it in B. I think that's a good spot for Karate Chimpster. Alright, now we have Mon Quixote, a very obvious Don Quixote pun. This one's quite simple and easy. I don't really think there's anything particularly notable about it. You just hold out a shield, you got to defend yourself against arrows. On Academy mode, you have so much generosity when it comes to hit points. It's ridiculous. You can take I don't know how many hits you can take. I want to say it's like something in the area of 5 to 10, but like vast majority of the time when I play this game, I find myself taking no more than 2 hits. So I have not lost a game of Don Quixote in years. And sure enough, I was watching my friend play this for the first time and he had no trouble with it either. So it's a very, very easy minigame. And however, at the same time, it doesn't last terribly long. It's not one of those like simple, easy minigames that drags, because those I find really quite tedious. Like Monkey Dodgeball is sort of a perfect example of that. Yeah, so it doesn't drag. I think I'm actually going to put it in C along with Monkey Dodgeball because I don't really see. My gut tells me I want to put it in B because then it's like it's one above to Monkey Dodgeball because I directly just then compared it to Monkey Dodgeball favorably. So but at the same time, I think it's like putting it in B also means that I'm putting it in the same category as. Oh, I guess I could. You know what? No. Actually, I could. I think I am going to put it in B actually because yeah, these other games in B do feel about on the same sort of level of goodness to me as Mon Quixote does. So yeah, no, I'll change my mind and put it on B. Morning Jog. Well, it's funny. I should probably put this and Red Hot Jig on the same tier because they are literally both rhythm games. My battery's low. I'm going to have to plug in my computer one moment. Okay, much better. Yeah, so what was I saying about Morning Jog? Yeah, that's right. So this and Red Hot Jig, I'm gonna do the same thing as I did with Hammer and Ufo Throw because these are functionally essentially the same game. These are both just rhythm games. However, they are both not very good rhythm games for the simple reason that you know how the whole point of a rhythm game, the whole fucking point is that when you press buttons, it has a bit of it times in with the music in some way. Yeah, these two don't do that. Not very well. They're really quite out of sync with the with the music, and that's like the one thing you gotta get right when wrecking a rhythm game. So, fuck. That's not good. That's really really quite a failing on these games part. So. I think they're both going to have to go in F, honestly. Just because they fuck up something so basic. That's such a fundamental thing with rhythm games. You don't fuck that up. Come on. Come on, guys. Really. Spectre Z here. This is because it's the final minigame. I'm just going to leave it till the end. Okay, Monkey Ole. This one is fun as fuck. I love it to death. It's just awesome. It's like, because it's, and I like the whole, you got a certain number of lanes. I can't remember exactly how many lanes. I want to say it's like five or, I think it's five or six. And you go through them and then you got to shake the cape, and then if the ball hits you, you change lanes, and it's just a really cool system that requires you to think on your feet and use your mind, and it's just really well done. However, the only thing stopping me from putting this on S tier is that there are some times where you'll get into a situation that's inescapable. Like, that can happen quite easily with this game. You'll just be, you'll be luring a bull and everything will be fine, but then you'll be followed by, that will immediately be followed by something like, it's really hard to explain this exactly. It's sort of like the kind of thing you'd have to see, but I'm just trying to put it into words. It's like, you can essentially just get put into an inescapable situation. That can happen. And it's just not great when that happens. So I think that's the only thing stopping me from putting it in S. But aside from that, it's definitely going in A because it's a really, really fun game, and it's always really fun to play. And that only applies to minigame mode. It doesn't apply to Academy mode. If I have not lost a game of this in Academy mode in the longest time, because they actually let you take a few hits, whereas in minigame mode you can't take a single hit. So it's purely a minigame mode thing. Otherwise, love it. Pot shots. This is... It's funny, it's the only first-person shooter in the entire game. But I really, really look forward to playing this one for some reason. It's always just, every time I see it in the list, or every time I'm just browsing through minigame mode and I feel like playing something, this always pops out to me as a very viable option. But the thing is, it's not without its flaws. It's got... I swear what can happen sometimes. Well, for one thing, this is a problem right off the bat, is that if you're going for the figurines, sometimes, and by sometimes I mean like quite a lot of the time, the figurine will just pop up in the corner very briefly, and by the time you've had any chance to react to its existence there and shoot it, it's gone. And you can't get the figurine. And that is my bias, because I have been trying to get the figurines lately, and so that's the reason why I've encountered that problem. But because if you weren't really going for the figurines, you'd just be like, oh, whatever, I don't care, Whereas I noticed that and I'm just like, fuck! But, yeah, so, but the other thing is also, I do find with pot shots, it is a bit, you run out of bullets really, really, really quickly and easily, and you need to find one of those monkeys that has a gun in, like a, not bazooka, what the fuck am I saying? Machine gun, or whatever it is, in his hand. And if you hit one of those, you'll get some bullets. But those are quite... I wish they were more plentiful, because there aren't very many of them. And often what you'll find yourself doing, and this can be quite dull, is you'll have only like 1 or 2 or 3 bullets left, right? And you literally basically have no choice but to wait for another one of those monkeys with machine guns to pop up, so that you can get more ammo. And often that doesn't happen for quite a while, and then often what will happen is one will appear in the corner and then immediately disappear, kind of like what I was saying with the figurine monkey earlier. So it's not without its flaws. That can happen, and it's quite frustrating when it does. So but at the same time, it's got a huge fun factor, this minigame. Really, really solid fun factor. So I really can't argue with a good fun factor, even if the game itself is a bit flawed. So B, this one goes for me, definitely. Yeah, it's funny because yeah, it's high fun factor, but also high degree of bullshit as well. So it's like, yeah, it's a bit more of a roller coaster, you might say, playing this game, as opposed to something like Monkey Already, where it's just like dead simple. Salvage. I don't know how I feel about Salvage, to be honest. I think even though I've played this game for so many years, I'm really not very good at Salvage. It's a tricky game with the currents and everything. But you know what's really weird? I find the red monkey version of this game harder than the pink monkey version. How weird is that? Right? That's the easiest version versus the hardest version, or what should be objectively that, but it's literally the opposite for me. which kind of says something about the design, doesn't it? I think because in Red Monkey mode, it's there's a lot more open space, whereas as you go up in the grades, especially in White and Pink Monkey, there's a lot more cliffs and stuff in the way, and so there's less options. And when there's less options, it becomes easier. So it's also very interesting in Salvage. It's also very interesting how every single time you win, you always get a figurine. It's like, I mean, I always figured when I was a kid that there's a figurine inside the chests that you find. That's the reason you always get a figurine. But yeah, very interesting stuff. So and it's also the only minigame in the entire game you need to rotate your PSP in order to play. It's definitely not bad by any stretch, but yeah, it's just an alright game. I don't really have anything more to say about it. It's C tier, I think. Definitely. Shish Kebab Special. Shish Kebab Special. You know, I'm once again going to talk about the figurines. I know I go on about those too much, but there is a bit of a fatal problem with this game. And that is that if you're going for the figurines, and this is only if you're going for the figurines, bear that in mind, what you have to do is you have to wait for the monkey that's throwing all the shit around. You have to wait for him to throw a certain shiny ball, and if you hit that with your sword, then that will give you the figurine, and then it's after that that you have to follow the pattern. And the two problems with that are, first of all, there's a long wait before he does that. And what you'll find yourself doing if you're going for the figurines, you'll find yourself just literally just sitting there waiting for him to throw the shiny ball. And then eventually when he throws it, well then you hit it, and then you just got to follow the pattern and you're all good. But the second problem is that once he's thrown the shiny ball, you've often got very little time to complete the pattern. And actually, I have found myself on at least 2 occasions, on Pink Monkey mode, I have found myself literally physically unable to complete the pattern after get the figurine in the same run, because in Pink Monkey mode you need 5 berries. At least I think they're berries. That's what I always thought they were. They might be apples. I don't know. I'm gonna call them apples. Actually, I think that's probably more likely what they are. Yeah, you get 5 apples on, and literally, at one point, like this happened yesterday actually, I got the figurine immediately after I successfully caught every single berry apple that appeared, and there was only 3 of them. And then after he threw 3, he stopped, and I lost. So, you know, bit of a problem actually. If you're going for the figurine, you know, sometimes it becomes literally impossible. So, not ideal. I think if they're gonna, you know, I think what they should have done is made some sort of rule where the monkey throws out the shiny ball kind of early on in the run rather than later. But yeah, anyway, figurine shit aside, because that's usually not going to be much of a priority for most players, I would imagine. It's not a bad game at all. It's, you know, that whole thing aside, there's really nothing wrong with it. It's just very it can get slightly frustrating, I suppose, but you know, so a lot of these minigames can. And you know what I really like? I really like the minigame mode version of this, because you get combos and you get rewarded for the combos, and it's really satisfying. So yeah, it's a fun game. This one's gonna go in B tier, I think. Very fun indeed. Swattery Doodles. Okay, that's not what it's called, but that's what I'm calling it now. Spot the difference. This one's weird. Is it just me, or is it like I think it's one of the most Japanese minigames in the entire game, and the reason I say that is not just because of the Japanese text, but it's also because of just the fact that it seems to be parodying like really bad and really wacky Japanese game shows, like... it seems to do that, and I really like that aesthetic. It's really funny, because then you got the audience, they fucking like cheer on whenever you swat the people who've misspelled the word or whatever it is, or the sentence, or I don't even know what it is, it's one or the other. And then they boo you if you fuck it up. I don't know, there's just something funny about that that's just so random. It's a very random seeming sort of game. However, the game itself is really good. Like, it's really, it does really challenge your mind, and it is really, you know, tricky to, even, I mean, even if you're not Japanese, the game is still playable. However, I do feel like the game is gonna is going to be, excuse me, a lot easier if you speak or understand Japanese. And I do not do either of those. So I guess for people who don't understand Japanese, it's going to be a lot harder because it literally uses Japanese text and requires you to identify differences within Japanese text. So if you don't know Japanese, this game is going to be harder, and I think that's a bit of a problem because I think they could have at the very least translated it to English somehow. I'm aware that, because of the nature of the game and how they put the papers, like, vertically, that does present a bit of a problem there. I think maybe they could have, I don't know, they could have changed up the game somehow, but anyway, what they did was they kept the Japanese text, and that's what we English-speaking peeps have to deal with, so it's still doable, it's just harder if you don't speak Japanese. So, it's not bad, but... and certainly trying to identify the differences is fun. However, I feel like the time limits can be strict, probably more strict than they should be. I think that's one thing that they definitely could have done, actually. I think they could have made the time limits more generous in the English versions to account for the fact that a lot of English people, a lot of English-speaking people playing the game are not going to speak Japanese. So for that reason, I think I'd put it in the C category. Alright, moving on. Street Juggler. Dull. Oh, this one's dull. So very dull. D for dull. I'm serious, that's where I'm putting it. It's so dull. It's just like circle left, circle left, circle left, circle left, circle left, left, circle left, circle left. Like, who wants to keep doing that over and over? It's fucking boring. God damn, it's really boring. So, yeah, it's just boring. It's literally boring. But the thing is, it's not an F tier game because there's nothing horrible about it. It's just boring. I mean, for every game that I've got in the F tier, there's something something quite specific that I can identify about these games that actually makes them legitimately horrible. The rhythm games don't even function as rhythm games. The Gran Turismo Monkey is literally a button masher. Ask Darwin is broken and badly translated. Morning Jog is... Wait, sorry, that's not Morning Jog, that's Simian Simplex, is random as fuck and has no skill to it whatsoever. So that if something goes in the F tier, it's got to have a real legitimate problem with it. This doesn't have a legitimate problem. It's a functional game, it's just boring. So, there you go. Monkey Tech. Monkey Tech is fun. It definitely has way more of a fun factor than Street Juggler could ever fucking hope to. But it also feels fairly random. It does feel fairly random. And it's one of those games where if you're going for the figurines, it is quite hard to get them both at once. But at the same time, it's not on the level of Shish Kebab Special where they actually can make it sometimes impossible. It's never impossible. So, I certainly won't fault the game for that at all. Yeah, it's very, what's funny? I noticed that there's a bit of a bell curve. In terms of the difficulty of the AI as you progress through the grades. I actually find that in Red Monkey, grade 1, it's pretty easy. And I actually find around Pink Monkey it's quite easy, but then around Yellow White Monkey it sort of spikes in difficulty. It's sort of weird, I don't know how that works, but yeah, I actually find the middle grades harder than both the end grades and the beginning grades. Figure that. But yeah, I really like the rock, paper, scissors shooting, gimmick. It's awesome. It requires you to really think on your feet. If you're being hit with paper, you've got to actually take some time to think, hang on, what beats paper? That's right, scissors. It's not hard. It's an intuitive thing, but you got to actually spend a second thinking about it. And having to do that on a moment-to-moment basis very consistently is really, really engaging and really fun. So, however, the only, something that can sometimes happen with this game for me, and I don't know if I would necessarily say this is a problem with the game, but there can only one player, so me for example, can only ever have two things that I've shot, like 2 symbols that I've shot, on screen at once. And so what that means is if I've shot, let's say, because it's a very viable strategy in this game to go paper rock or rock scissors or something like that. Because let's say you fire rock scissors, well then if the opponent goes paper, well it'll go through the rock but it won't go through the scissors, and so they'll have to put a second one through. You know, it's a bit of a strategy to sort of trip up the opponent. But if you do that, then you're leaving yourself very vulnerable. But I don't suppose you have to do the strategy, do you? It really helps, though, I have to say. Like, without the strategy, you're not going to get very far very easily. But it does come with a bit of a risk because you leave yourself quite vulnerable, and a lot of the time you don't know what's actually going to happen, because by the time you have made the decision to put yourself into that position, you don't know yet that your opponent is about to fire the deadly weapon that will basically get you in that spot every single time, and there's almost nothing you can do about it. So it feels a little bit random in that respect, but it's nothing too bad. Overall, very enjoyable game. One of the harder games in the mini games in the game for sure. But I think it's a really good kind of difficult. It's definitely it doesn't feel overly frustrating to me. It feels like a really kind of a fair difficulty in my opinion. So I'm going to put it in A. Monkey watching. Oh God, I really don't like this one. Yeah, this is easily a D, easily, because it's just like I explained before. There's nothing inherently wrong with it, but I just don't like it. I find it incredibly dull. And even, I mean, on the easier difficulties you can count the monkeys, no problem, but on the harder difficulties, I have such a hard time keeping track. I can almost never complete the pink and white monkey versions of this game because they're so hard. But the thing is, even if they weren't hard, even if they were easy, like, or even mid-range, let's say that I had a moderate time with it, you know, let's say that, yeah, I'd still find it really dull. The dullness of the game is the reason I'm putting it in D. It's not because of the fact that I find white and pink monkey modes hard. It's, you know, that's just me. I own that. I own that. That's a bit of my incompetence talking there. But even if I had an easy time with it, I just wouldn't enjoy it. It's just not an enjoyable game to me. And last but not least, we have Spectre Z, the final, which is literally just the final, like basically the entire Spectre section of the game. There is, how would I rank this? There's a lot of button mashing when you get to the sort of the end where I think it's the pink monkey section or white or pink, where basically there's these barrels and you just got to sit in front of them and just hit X or circle over and over and over and over and over until it eventually disappears, which feels like such a waste of fucking time. So yeah, that's just one thing, but just generally getting through these areas, like before you get to the bosses are interesting, and fighting the Freaky Monkey 5 in these areas is really interesting and varied and cool, but the parts leading up to it feel really dull to me. Not as dull as most of the stuff in the D category, though. I'm not talking about that level of dull. It's more like the next level down. Like, it's sort of just like a bit dull, but manageably dull. Not in a way that feels, you know, really, really painful. So, it's really just a very mixed bag, I think. Spectre Z. Or, I'm sorry, Spectre Z if you're in the US. Oh yeah, I didn't mention at the beginning of this video, but yeah, this whole game is called Ape Escape Academy in US, whereas in PAL regions it's called Ape Academy, so go figure. Where would I put this? I'm gonna put it in... I mean, even if we're talking about the actual bosses, like, the bosses... most of them are pretty bloody easy. And not to mention, it doesn't matter how much health you have at the end of a fight because it resets at the beginning of the next one, which I'm not complaining about at all. But from that to that end, I mean, the only reason I say that is because maybe if that wasn't the case, like maybe if it was the kind of thing where you had to... I've been recording this for ages. I'm having trouble getting my words together. If it was the kind of thing where you had to conserve your health and you only got back a certain amount of health at the end of each stage, I think that would actually be better. That's it. That's the thought I was trying to make. Because yeah, I think if you did that, it would actually it would make the whole thing a bit less easy. So I'm gonna put it in B. Yeah, a lot of stuff in B. There you go. There's my tier list. There's my tier list of all the Ape Academy minigames. What do you guys think? Do you have any opinions of mine that you strongly disagree with? If so, please leave a comment. But yeah, I think I'm pretty satisfied with this. There's a bit of a bell curve again, here where it's like spikes up around B. So it's pretty clear that for a lot of these minigames I do have a little bit of a positive inclination because of, and a lot of that is due to nostalgia bias because, this is a real childhood favourite of mine. But yeah, thanks for watching. And, any of you who actually, some of you might have never played Ape Academy in your life and have just listened to me ramble on for God knows how long about a game you've never played, in which case I'm so sorry that I've done that to you. But if you have played the game, then yeah, leave a comment. I don't really know anyone that's played this game aside from this one friend I have. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I shall see you later.